Hello, Athens. Welcome to the Classic City Business Podcast. Our mission? To connect our community to the local business owner. If you love Athens and love supporting the people behind our businesses, then you're in the right place. We get to know the people behind the sign. Some are legends, others are on their way. You're listening to the Classic City Business Podcast with your friend, your host, all-around great guy and owner of Generations Commercial Cleaning, John Gluck. So get ready, buckle up, hang on, here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to the Classic City Business Podcast. I am your host, John G, and today we're connecting our community to the people behind the sign at Core Restore. So we're talking to Chris Verdi. I'm going to get him to introduce himself here in a second, but Chris, first of all, I am really curious what the Restore part of Core Restore is. So go ahead, introduce yourself.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
My name is Chris Verdi. I am the owner, operator of Core Restore. I've had my business for almost 18 years. I moved into the Athens area about almost 3 years ago from Asbury Park, New Jersey, where I had my business for about 14 years, so 14, 15 years. I guess to wrap it up in a nutshell, I am responsible for, I kind of tell people that I'm your movement and muscle specialist. I concentrate in mobility and increasing mobility in a way that people aren't really familiar. I do a technique called muscle activation techniques, which is a technique that was developed by a gentleman named Greg Roscoff. It's been around for about 22 years. Its fundamental principle is we're reactivating muscle fiber that doesn't function properly anymore. We're kind of like chiropractors, but the opposite. Where chiropractors are adjusting your bones, we're actually increasing your contractibility of your muscles. So your muscles can turn on and off, and we're the ones coming in, making sure your muscles are turned on so you're actually going to get the true benefit of what you're trying to accomplish. And then from that, and my knowledge from MAT and my background, I'm a biomechanics specialist. We specialize in joint structure and function, anatomy, and function. So, and then from that background, I ended up developing my own personal training system, which I call the Core Restore Training System. And it's a movement-based training system that teaches you how to access muscle in order to move. It's a lot bigger than that. I kind of tell people it's kind of like MAT, what I do, muscle activation techniques, chiropractic, PT, and exercise kind of wrapped up into one. I always tell people you don't want to end up like me and I did as a kid. So my whole thing is like, I wanted to make sure that people understood how and what to move instead of just moving. And so they'd have a background and knowledge on their actual structure and function and anatomy and what you're trying to actually accomplish, because I think it is as important as reading and writing to you as an individual is to know how your body is working or not working.
That makes sense. I always like to ask this question in this segment of, okay, so why should the community get to know you? How would you benefit them knowing you? You kind of answered that question a little bit,
right?
But who is your customer? Who would need to come to see you to make their life better? Is there a category of person, or what does that look like?
I mean, my favorite people to work with are athletes, but this might be real general, but it's as important as brushing your teeth. People don't really look at the muscle system this way. They think it just is, tight and painful, and then you rub it out and it's better. Well, this goes a step further, and most people have some kind of chronic condition when it comes to the muscle system. And I would say it's people that are looking for a different approach and also to the muscle system, as well as adding something that seems to be missing from their health regimen. Like I said, I'm the opposite of a chiropractor. I work hand in hand with a chiropractor. I work well with massage. I work well with most other modalities. It's just the order in which you see me that's important, because we don't do anything passive. We're not manipulating you. We're not stretching you. We're not doing anything like that. We're just assessing your body based on what you can't do so you eventually can do it. So athletes tend to be very good at that because they know what they can't accomplish. People in general kind of come in with certain aches and pains and know there's some things that they can't do. but they don't understand why they can't do it. And sometimes they can feel a difference when I'm able to work on them. A lot of times with athletes, once you start to do something and they feel a difference and then they can see and experience the difference in their sport, they know that,
it's more dramatic.
It's more dramatic than that. It's kind of like when we were talking a little bit about how I found MAT.
Right. Yeah, so that's not fair. You can't just drop that on the audience. So he was an athlete growing up and had some issues. Yeah, a soccer player. And look, I'm going to go there. So soccer has become a whole lot more popular.
Yeah.
And we're going to digress for 60 seconds, guys.
Sure.
We'll be right back. But soccer's gotten very popular in our area here specifically. I've got a friend whose daughters play competitively. They travel and all that. So I'm just going to ask you point blank: is it football or is it soccer? Is it soccer? What's it called? Football or soccer?
Oh, football. Well, it's called soccer here.
Okay.
Football everywhere else.
All right. I've gotten into it with some people, and I just wanted to make sure. So I just want that on the record.
Okay.
So somebody who played growing up, been around it all his life. If we're in the States, it's soccer.
It's soccer. Well, I ended up growing up in Indiana, and I played with all the kids from Purdue University, so all the students or the faculty's sons and daughters. And that's where I learned to play soccer, which was football.
Right, football.
That's how I got good. And then when we moved from Indiana to California to Indiana, that's when I started really, really getting good, because you always want to play with people who are better than you.
Yeah, it makes you better. That's right. You either play down or you play up, one or the other.
Yeah.
That's true in business too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. True in everything.
So as far as your clientele, obviously the athlete, that makes total sense. We've talked about that in a lot of different people that we've talked to in different businesses or whatever. But so the layman, the person who's out there digging ditches and having issues with a hip or shoulder or whatever, is that somebody you can help, and how exactly?
Sure, I could help someone like that. The problem or the issue comes in is the person and how they see health. Right?
Right.
Do they see it as a process, or do they see it as, this is hurting, I want you to take care of this, and that's that? I'm not really that kind of practitioner for you. I'm going to look at the whole body and whole body approach. I have different approaches for different people, but if someone like that's coming in who's been digging ditches for years and they have the back pain, hip pain, they're on medication, they're not quite athletic enough anymore, they're not getting enough sleep, they're not eating well, they're going to be on an approach for me, which I call a more holistic approach, where I take a big kind of scan over all of the body, see what you're not doing, come up with a game plan, and then you're in for a process. Or I have a targeted approach, is where this is somebody who is more fit and takes care of themselves, not on a lot of medication, has an ache or pain somewhere, they come to see me. I can pretty much go in, help them out in a couple sessions, and that's that. Then I have the training approach, where if someone's coming in and it's not so much therapeutic based and something I can actually try to help with the training approach, I would use the training approach, because that's something active versus you laying on a table. And then I can combine the training system sometimes with the MAT I do, and kind of use the MAT as a detective work to see what's not actually happening in the body. So,
but these body type, whether it's chiropractics, massage therapy, stretching, all that stuff, this is something that you're working together with to make a holistic, I guess, approach.
Right.
So you're not claiming that this is the answer. Those guys are bad. So can you give us an example of how you?
I think what we are is the missing link.
Okay.
So there's no one doing what I'm doing. I am the only person in the state of Georgia at my level doing MAT, and I'm the only person in Georgia using my training system, because it's my patented training system that I developed. So how I see myself, so if you're going in and you're getting an adjustment, right, and you're not holding your adjustments, I'm the other half of that. Because what we do is increase contractibility of the stabilization characteristics. And the stabilization fibers are pretty much responsible for keeping your bones in place, right? So if you're going to a massage therapist and you're constantly like not activating like your glute, or certain parts of your body are shut off, or certain parts of your body are hypertonic or hyper tight, then that might be a reason to see me as well. Because if you can't access something, it's because you're not getting the right neurofeedback, and we reestablish that neural connection. Or if it's hypertonic or really, really tight, it's because something else is weak. So what we do is find those weak links in the muscle system, reactivate those weak links, and then the tightness goes away. Because we look at tightness and lack of mobility as your natural born protective mechanism.
Your body's doing that for a reason.
For a reason. Like I always tell people, you're not tightening up for no reason. You're tightening up because there's instability or something in your body is telling the system, say, hey, something's unstable, I'm going to tighten up. So it's kind of like when I learned and I was going through the process, Greg would always say, who developed muscle activation techniques, it's kind of like people, they'll say functional training. So my background is personal training. They'll say, okay, we'll put you on a stability ball and you're going to be on one leg and you're going to squat up and down. Well, that to me is there's a place for that and a time and place, but most people are not going to start there because you're already unstable in your body. You're standing on an unstable environment, so instability plus instability equals more instability. It does not equal strength. It equals your body compensating to get through that task because that's what your mind wants you to do. And that's the difference. Like I want to make sure that I'm at the bottom because in the fitness pyramid, you have all this stuff. You have balance and stability. I add movement to the core base of the pyramid because if you don't know how to move or you're not moving correctly or you're not firing correctly, everything above that pyramid is built on a shaky foundation, and eventually your body doing something, whatever it is, will find that hole and then you'll be injured.
Gotcha. Okay, well that's fascinating. I actually kind of was processing that, internalizing it personally as I...
as everyone does. That's how we relate to things.
So I've actually gone to see the chiropractor and had issues with things holding in place, and so you're telling me that's why.
That could be a reason why, sure. I mean, your diet can be a reason, your stress level can be a reason.
Don't judge me.
your lack of sleep can be a reason.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of factors, but, I really do feel, we are the other half in so many things because people a lot of times are so unaware of what isn't happening, or they're working with someone who is going to work around something you can't do, and instead of improving what you can't do. And for me, that was completely the wrong approach for my body because as we talked earlier, I had a back fusion as a kid, a soccer player, a ruptured disc. They fused my sacrum to lumbar spine. After getting out of that surgery, I was in even more pain. And basically all anyone ever did with me was work around what I couldn't do. So eventually I could not bend forward at all. I couldn't even bend forward to pick up a pencil and my back would freeze up. And I'd wear that weight belt. I'd do all this stuff. It made my core so weak that my body had no strength just to even hold me in place while I bent forward. So it literally becomes your detriment. So it's like you want to work within what you can't do so you can improve it. And it's not saying you're going to have complete function. I mean, I at one point was never I was never supposed to touch my toes. I can touch my toes now with a fusion. I can tilt my pelvis forward and backwards with a fusion. I was never supposed to do that. So it's adapting to my now given structure, where that's a lot of times people are trying to manipulate only the structure. I'm trying to activate the things that are holding the structure in place, and then with my training system, I'm trying to train your body and your systems to do it all together so it starts to change those pathways in the brain to make them more permanent.
Gotcha. So
that's kind of my process in a nutshell.
Okay, well, that was a very long first segment, so I apologize. We may have to break this down into two episodes, which we've done before. You guys out there are fully aware of that. There was a lot of good stuff there. That was fascinating. But let's get to know the person behind the sign a little bit. Okay. So you say you're from New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
So you ended up down here in Athens, Georgia. A lot of us outsiders, I think I shared with you earlier, I'm from Illinois originally. Been in Georgia my entire life. Been in Athens the last 5 years, and I just feel like I'm blessed.
Yeah,
so
me too.
I landed here. I'm lucky. I'm grateful. How did you get here?
Having my business up in New Jersey for almost 14 years, my husband at the time, he was in the arts. I was in fitness. When the pandemic hit, we were closed down for more than 6 months. So we basically lost our businesses. Yeah. So we wanted to change our life. We wanted to have a new experience. We were tired of where we were living, and we had been in our house for almost 14 years. And Bill, being a musician, had always this fascination and kind of love with Athens, being a big REM fan. When we were kind of sitting there wondering what we were going to do, because I was also in the middle of my production run for my pulleys for my train system, which was about $80,000. That was all of our savings, so we had no money to live on. The only equity we had, or only value we really had, was our house. So we're like, do we want to stay in New Jersey and pay those prices, or do we want to find somewhere else with a little bit better weather, better attitude?
Better attitude.
Oh my God!
I'm sorry. Stop. Pause for laugh. All right, go ahead. That was funny.
We just wanted more out of our life. And we kind of thought, well, let's buy our retirement home early. Let's just sell what we have, because we had our house for almost 20 years, so it was almost paid off. And so we just said, you know what, let's do it. And within a couple days, Bill came up to me and said, hey, look at this house. I'm like, it's beautiful. It's 1900. Our house in New Jersey was 1903, same time period. We drove down to Georgia. Had never been to Georgia before in my life. Came down there, saw the house, fell in love with it instantaneously. Within 3 months, we were living in Georgia. It was really that simple. We're both very spontaneous sometimes, maybe too spontaneous at times, but it's something I do not regret. It's something Bill does not regret. We love it here. We do feel very blessed to be here. The networking has been so much easier here than it ever was up north. People are just have more, I think, of an open heart. They're not as jaded, I would say. But me being from Indiana, like growing up in Indiana, and Bill growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, so we already had that kind of, a lot of people say Indiana is like a northern southern state. So we already had that, that feeling that we wanted again. And both of us kind of wanted to be in the country, not so much, we were almost right on the ocean. We just wanted a whole change of scenery. So the house led us here, and then everything kind of just fell into place, and that's really what happens is when you put your mind and intention in a way that's really positive, and you just kind of put in that way. You don't know exactly how you're going to get there, but as long as you have the intention, get rid of the expectations, and then get there, and then that's when things happen.
So I think you said you've been here for about 3 years.
Yep.
And I don't know what your circle of friends are, but I love to ask this question in this segment. So you ready?
I'm ready.
What is something about yourself that if your friends were to learn, they would be like, say what? Like it would just shock them. So no pressure. I did not prep him for this question either. So that's what this,
well,
we already know you're a soccer player.
Yeah.
Right. So, I know what Bill would say, or at least I have an answer for him, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second, since I cheat you a little bit, guys. I'll let you in on it. But go ahead.
Let's see.
It would surprise them knowing who you are, what you do, to learn that you wanted to be this when you were a kid, or something that, is a secret hobby.
Right.
Nothing embarrassing or anything. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not thinking anything bad. I think for me, something, I don't know if a lot of people don't know this, but I feel very connected to the earth, and I like working with my hands. Obviously, that's what I do all day long. I feel, and I don't think I realized this until moving to Georgia, how much more I feel grounded when I'm in nature. And I don't talk about that a lot. And we have almost 6 acres, and Bill and I, when we first lived there, we went for a walk in our woods, and you came out of it, and I felt completely different. Yeah. Because living in a place like New Jersey, which is bombarded with people all the time, our house was right smack in the middle of Asbury Park. It was stimulation all the time, and then when all of a sudden you get to hear just Mother Nature, you get to find out what's really important and what's missing, and I think that to me was a huge kind of realization that I didn't realize how much I had missed being in a place where I can walk outside and just hear insects and birds and
my favorite place to live as an adult was when I was on it wasn't really a farm, but the 3.5 acres, just out in the middle of the country. You could walk out on the back deck, and there, you holler at the neighbor, and the response was, Nothing, because they couldn't hear you, right? So that was awesome. So I totally get that, man. So welcome to Georgia.
Yeah, well, thank you. I love it here.
So I teased it a little bit.
Yeah.
You told me something earlier about something that Bill did that was kind of cool that like everybody would recognize. So share that.
All right. Bill, being in the arts, and I was in the arts as well. It's kind of how we met. But he got a gig when we first met, and he was saying he was doing an audition for the Village People. And I'm like, the Village People? What's some cover band? I was like, nope. He ended up getting the audition, had the audition, and then got it and became the sub for the construction worker for the real Village People.
To which I asked you why, and then you started to answer. I said, no, why MCA? That was a really bad joke, guys. I apologize. But anyway, so that's kind of a cool story.
Yeah. So he got to experience the world and travel everywhere and meet so many different people and lots of experiences. I got to go a couple times.
Just a couple times?
A couple times. Well, I have to work, you know.
Oh, yeah, you still got it.
And so I got to go to Australia, New Zealand,
nice.
And I think there's one other place, can't remember the moment.
Well, those are two, really cool places to go to if you had to pick two.
3 weeks in Australia. And that
was
awesome.
Man, that's awesome. So that's a whole nother story then. We are
sure.
Glad I dive in there, but we don't have time. But I'll tell you what, this is my favorite segment. This is my Athens.
Okay.
I told you when I moved here, I mean, I've been a dog fan for a while, ever since I've been in Georgia, really. So when I moved to Athens, I really got to embrace the culture. So this is my Athens, says Chris. What's your favorite thing about being in Athens?
My favorite thing about being in Athens, I would say I have kind of found my love for football again, which I hadn't had before.
So now you're just preaching. You know you're in Georgia now. Like
preaching.
This is like
my dad used to be. He played football and then eventually reffed, and it was kind of interesting that I didn't go into football, but he played. I don't want to say what's the minors before he didn't go any further, but he was a pretty good lineman, and I think when we moved here and then we started watching the dogs again. And the last 2 years they did so well. It's like, how can you not like this team? And like I told you, my sister and her husband are here this weekend, and her husband's like, hey, you want to go to a UGA game? I was like, yeah, that'd be great. So we finally went to our first UGA game. We saw them play Ball State, which was just a smoke.
Yeah.
It smoked them. But no, it was great. And I think also just being in Athens, I think I like the fact that our house is kind of set out. And then I can be in Athens in 10 minutes, so I have a little bit of the city.
The best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds. And in general, people just are just more, I just think they're more open here and friendlier in general. And I've really because I moved my business over here to Watkinsville, and just within the whole Oconee, Athens area, I met so many wonderful people. And it really happened through Danielle Greer, who is my realtor, and she's really, really helped me introduce me to so many different people in the area. And then Dan Burnford, being my operations manager, has really helped me with the networking, and that's how we're sitting here today.
That's right.
So
that's awesome. So do you have any favorite food stops, or do you have a favorite food
Amici kind of became our pizza place, being from the East Coast.
Okay.
You've got to have good pizza. Being half Italian, I have to have my pizza once in a while. Yeah. So yeah, Amici downtown became our place. I tried a lot, and some of them are really good, but Amici has my heart. So yeah, we pretty much go there every Friday night. I'll try to eat out just once a week, and that's where I go.
That's nice.
Oh, one thing too is I love the breweries here. Yeah, a lot of good breweries. I like craft beers, and so that was also a plus.
Yeah, you got plenty to pick from, man.
Very, very.
You could take half a year every weekend and go do something practically. It's crazy.
Yep.
So you're a craft beer guy.
Oh yeah.
So what's your favorite?
Right now it's Tropicalia.
Okay.
I just kind of
depends on the mood.
Well, it's really been Tropicalia. I mean, I like Terrapin stuff. I like Authentic. I like Academia. So I like them all. It's just I kind of go through things. Right now it just happens to be Tropicalia.
Okay. It wasn't Academia. What's the other one over there on
Authentic?
Authentic. I think they actually do a comedy night once a week, or not once a week, once a month. They used to be once a week. It used to be on Thursday. I think they're doing once a month now.
Right.
And I've done that a couple times. That's pretty cool. You bring your own food in, and then of course they're serving their drinks and stuff. Right. But that's pretty cool. All right. I did not warn you about this.
Okay.
But because you are such a big dog fan, you become a dog fan, this won't scare you too much.
Okay.
But during the kickoff at the game Saturday, you heard the dog call and how they do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we sign off here on the Classic City Business Podcast, we always say, Athens, it's been a lot of fun, and until next time, go dogs! Sick 'em! Okay, guys, we did it. We made it to the end of the show. Now that you've heard at least one episode, can you do me a favor? If you know someone you would like to hear on a future episode, you can contact us or have them contact us at podcastjohng@gmail.com or just message us on our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook. Just search the Classic City Business Podcast. You'll find us. One more thing. Please like, rate, review, and share. All of this really helps a lot. We really do want to connect our community to the local business owner. We believe this is a great platform to do just that. And thank you for taking this ride with us as we get to know the people behind the sign. It's going to be a lot of fun. In Athens, until next time, I'm John G. and go dogs.